visiting officials. How many people do we have online at this time, Lorraine? 5. Okay, we'll go ahead and we do have just a few people who are here. For the record, we'll go ahead and do introductions. Delegate Nathan Nota, you could introduce yourself and the chapters that you represent.
Yeah, Dave Bennett. I'm Nathan Nota. I'm the council delegate for District 14, and that includes Tallahatchie, Nashville, Mexican Springs, Twin Lakes, Basla, and Coyote Canyon. And I'm originally from Tallahatchie, New Mexico. Good morning. Yeah, Dave Bennett.
Thank you for that, Delegate Nota, and welcome back. We missed you here at LOC. Good to see you back, safe and sound from your long trips there.
Right.
We'll go ahead and proceed forward to Vice Chair Sherilyn Yazzie.
Ja, ik ben Sharon Yazin Shadow van Latin Shwe. Puts of me, Ashing to the G, Dashing direction. And the chapters that I represent are Galcon, Tisto, Indian Wells, Greenswood, and Whitecomb. So thank you everybody for being here and those of you that are listening on the line. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair, and good morning. I'm Chairwoman Charles Newton, Chairwoman for the Law and Order Committee. I represent the community of Shiprock, but also represent all the Navajo people living on and off the Navajo Nation. So it's good to be here this morning conducting another Law and Order Committee meeting. For the record, Delegate Stephen Arvizo did text to say that he is running a few minutes late, so he should be joining us. Delegate Herman Daniels also said he will be late for today's meeting as well. So hopefully we do have a full committee today. We're going to go ahead and proceed forward. Are there any other delegates or any delegates on the line who wish to announce themselves at this time? Okay, not hearing anything, we're going to proceed forward. Do we have any representation from the Speaker's office?
Yeah, good morning, Holly James from the Speaker's office.
Good morning, Ms. James. Thank you for being here with us this morning. We'll go ahead and proceed forward to Office of Legislative Counsel.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. This is Lawyer Khanarachni Henderson. I'm with the Office of Legislative Counsel and glad to be here on the meeting today.
Thank you for that, Lawyer. Thank you for being on the line. We'll go ahead and proceed forward at this time to Office of Legislative Services. Ladies, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for the record, Lorraine.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee and those that are here with us this morning. Yeah, Lorraine Spencer and Jeff that not getting sick. But it was and I'm here with the Law and Order license.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. We'll go ahead and proceed forward at this time. Do we have any, I'm sorry, Sherelle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shay Buttons on the full touch it need just tuning to engineer that's trader just that you know I'm the legislative assistant for Law and Order Committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. Committee members, we're going to proceed forward at this time. Any representation from the judicial branch? Okay, not hearing anything from the judicial branch, we'll proceed forward. Any representation from the Office of the President and Vice President? Okay, nobody from the Office of the President and Vice President. Do we have any executive directors on the line or any executive directors in the room who wish to announce themselves for the record? Okay, not hearing anything. Do we have anybody from the chapters who are on the line? Okay, not hearing anything. We're going to go ahead and we're just now joined by Chief of Staff Manuel Rico. Rico, would you like to introduce yourself at this time?
Morning, Madam Chair and committee members. members, Manuel Rico, Office of Speaker, Chief of Staff, couple hundred and I'll be joining you, Madam Chair. I have another thing at 11, but we have Holly also here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Rico, for being here. We're going to go ahead and proceed forward to item number 3 on the agenda, which is review and adopt the agenda. Lorraine, can you go ahead and read the agenda into the record for us, please?
Okay, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. Agenda of the Law and Order Committee of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting, October 9th, 2023, 10 a.m. Presiding, Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairperson, Honorable Sarah Melody, Vice Chairperson. Location, Law and Order Committee, Conference Room, Winter Rock, Arizona. One call meeting to order, roll call and invitation. Number 2, recognizing and visiting officials. Number 3, review and adopt agenda. Number 4, review and adopt the journals. There are no journals. 5, receive report. A, report from Dwight Witherspoon, HFGU attorney, Navajo Nation Department of Justice on a possible conflict of interest for program specialists with nameless offering a training to criminal investigation and law enforcement. B, report from Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton on the advocacy meeting held in Washington, D.C. on the public safety booklet as priorities for Law and Order Committee. And 6, all business done. 7, new business done. 8, close the meeting. Announcement and adjournment, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, the agenda has been read into the record. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Vice Chair Sherilyn Yazzie. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Delegate Nathan Nota. Committee members, are there any questions, any comments, or any amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time?
I have one. Couple weeks back, I wanted to add discussion to add a report. We had received emails from several attorneys off the reservation who want to talk about the crisis in the Navajo Nation court system and the state of emergency in our court systems. And so I want to be able to bring them out and just kind of hear how we could problem solve, anything we can. Because I do get calls from my constituents and they are concerned, sometimes with court cases, they're not really sure what is happening. So I'd like to add that into the agenda.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Are the people who want to provide information, are they on the line?
Discussion. So that way we can schedule it for in the future.
Okay. So so
Yeah,
what
I
we
wanna-
can do is we won't add it as a discussion. We'll just go ahead and add it to the next, I guess the next LOC meeting is going to be in Torreon. I don't know if the chapter has good Wi-Fi for people to take part in that report. We also probably need to get Loya on the line so that they can review, or actually Loya is on the line, so that they can review those documents to make sure that we are not, as delegates, we cannot get involved in personnel matters. If it's dealing, those are automatic ethics violations against us. So we need to make sure that we have Office of Legislative Counsel who can guide us with that. And we also have to be very careful because we are coming up to confirmation for judges. So Loya, are you listening in right now?
Madam Chair, yes, I am, and I am taking notes, and I will review. I believe, requesting a report is what the Vice Chair is asking for, and I do understand your question and concern about getting into perhaps overstepping, I would say. If we're looking at personnel matters. And so I will do a quick review of the information provided, and prior to scheduling, I will also get in touch with the attorneys who will be presenting or who would want to, Vice Chair would want to present, and we'll discuss that. I would say, since there's council coming up, I would give me about 2 weeks to do that so that I can reach out to them perhaps after council, and then you can have them come to present.
Okay, Vice Chair, if you're good with it, this will give Loya some time to look into the matter and to meet with Dana to see if that's something that this committee can hear. We can tentatively schedule them to be on the agenda for October 30th, which is the last Monday of the month in October. And that will give Loya some time to look into the matter. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Lorraine, can you make sure that on the October 30th Law and Order Committee that we have this issue regarding this crisis? And then Loya will start looking into the matter. Okay, committee members, are there any other questions, comments, or any amendments that need to be made to the agenda? Okay, not hearing anything. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Stephen Avita, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen Avita votes green. Honorable Herman Daniel Bennett, how do you vote? Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Nathan Nota votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Sharon Yazzie, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Sharon Yazzie votes green. Honorable Madam Chair, Paul Green, abstain, for the zero opposed, and Madam Chair, Paul Green.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, committee members, we do have a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed. 2 who are not voting. We did get a text message from Delegate Herman Daniels, who is running late, and Chair not voting. So with that, committee members, we do have an agenda set before us at this time. We'll proceed forward to item number 4, review and adopt the journals. There is none. I thought we did have one that was sent out to us, or was that Nobby?
It was sent out to you guys, but, yeah.
Okay, so the next one. Okay, that's fine. So we go ahead and we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to item number 5, receiving reports. We have a report from Dwight Witherspoon's HSGU attorney, Navajo Nation Department of Justice, on the possible conflict of interest for program specialists with NamUs, offering a training to criminal investigations and law. We did request Mr. Witherspoon to be here in person, since all of our meetings are scheduled to be in person. Do we have Department of Justice here? Okay. Mhm. You can come up to the table. So you're here for Mr. Witherspoon.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Dwight Witherspoon has transitioned to the water unit within DOJ, and so I've assumed his clients. My name is Navalin Platero, and I'm an attorney with HSGU.
What was your first name?
Navalin
Navalin Platero.
Platero.
Okay.
Okay, so just a little bit of background.
Oh, hold on. So we do have Ms. Platero from HSGU within the Navajo Department of Justice, who will be presenting a report to us on the possible conflict of interest for program specialists with NamUs, offering a training to criminal investigations and law enforcement. Committee members, can I get a motion and a second at this time to hear the report?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Vice Chair Sherilyn Yazzie. Can I get a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Second made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo. So with that, Ms. Platero, I believe that this is your first time presenting to the committee. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the way that we work here within the rules of our committee rules, you'll have 20 minutes to present your information. Lorraine will be keeping track of the time. During that time, you can call as many agents as you need to help assist you in presenting your information. If you have any handouts or presentations, you can go ahead and send that to Lorraine, and she'll send that out to the committee members for us to review, or she'll print it for us. During this time, I'd like to ask to make sure that your phone and all of your devices are on silent during this time. We do have a rule, and this is for everybody who is in the room. We do have a rule that if your phone goes off, that it's $5. You get charged $5. And that money at the end of the year in December, we take from the names of there's like a, what do you call it, like a Christmas tree, that has all of the names of kids who, are requesting for assistance. So usually Law and Order Committee hosts a family or, kids on that tree, depending on how much money we have to buy gifts. And that's how the donations are made to, we don't keep that money. So then also, if you need additional time, you can request it. If there's no objection from the committee members, we'll give you an additional time to get through that. Do you have any questions at this time regarding the procedure?
No, I don't.
Okay, so committee members, a motion was made by Vice Chair Sherilyn Yazzie, second made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo. Ms. Platero, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you at this time for your report.
Thank you, Madam
Woody.
Chair and committee members. So again, the request for this information was made at a lot of committee meeting on August 21st, 2023. There's due to a directive to the Division of Public Safety to train all missing, murdered Indigenous people investigators within the Criminal Investigation Department and all law enforcement as well on the NAMA system, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. And the directive was made to have the training done by the end of this year. However, an issue or a question arose because the NAMA's tribal program specialist, Cornelia Perry, is the one that will conduct the training. However, she has a grievance against the Department of Public Safety. And so the Criminal Investigation Department Director, Michael Henderson, claimed that there might be a conflict of interest because Perry was a previous employer with the office, but has since left the program. The short answer is that Perry is allowed to do the training and that there is no conflict of interest in DOJ's eyes or position, because Black's Law Dictionary defines conflict of interest as a situation that can undermine a person due to self-interest and public interest, or a situation when parties discharge responsibility to a third party. So as DOJ understands it, current employees can have various grievances against their employers because this is allowed under Navajo Nation law, and they still, however, can possess the ability to do their job. In this situation, there's less justification for conflict of interest because Perry is not a current employee with the nation. And the subject matter of the presentation is not related to Perry's complaint or grievance. And there's no conflict of self-interest in that way. And also Perry's training or employment does not undermine the public interest. Additionally, HSGU consulted with the litigation unit that handles employment claims and is currently handling this claim. And the litigation unit finds that there's no conflict of interest with her providing the training. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Platero. Committee members, are there any questions or any comments regarding the report provided to us by the Navajo Nation Department of Justice? Navalin, Platero on the possible conflict of interest for program specialists with NAMA's offering a training to criminal investigations and law enforcement. Vice Chair Sherilyn Yazzie, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So now that it's been cleared up, is the deadline still going to be to try to get everybody trained by December, or does the time need to be moved back? Because we lost some time just to kind of figure out what was happening. I don't know what would be in the realm of both parties to kind of come to that agreement and maybe push the date back, or are they good? Do they think they can get everything done by December, the end of the year?
I currently do not have that information. I would seek that information from possibly the Division of Public Safety, also the NAMUS, training.
Okay.
Okay, any other question? Delegate Arvizo?
Madam Chair, I know it was an individual, a lady that was gonna, or volunteered to do, what was her name and what outfit was she with?
Cornelia Perry.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a former criminal investigator. And so the Department of Justice looked into whether there was a conflict of her providing the training because she's with NAMUS. So as far as I know, and I could be wrong on this, I think NAMUS is the only database of its kind out there that provides this information like of missing people, unidentified bodies. You know, we went through that training to the public. So that was the reason why, you know, I don't know if you guys recall, when we had our meeting in Albuquerque and we got that training, that was the reason why we asked that that the MMIW unit and all criminal investigators do that training so that they can update the database, because this provides information to the Navajo people about the cases that that they are reporting. And it also allows the public to also provide information to NAMUS directly, but it has to be verified by law enforcement and criminal investigations. And that's why we're hoping that we can get that information onto NAMUS so that these cases are made known.
With that, can we get her back to do an update on when she plans and how she's gonna go about the training? Can we get that? And that way we can ask her that question and see if she can get this done still by the end of the year, maybe at our next law and order meeting.
Okay, yeah, I can go ahead and see if she's available for the 23rd or the 30th.
Yes.
To provide us information on that, since there's been a DOJ has said that there's not a conflict.
That way we could get you that information, young lady.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Okay, not hearing anything. Did you want to respond to anything before we call for the vote?
No.
Okay, thank you. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Stephen Arvizo, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen Arvizo votes green. Honorable Herman Daniel Estrella, how do you vote? Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Nathan Nota votes green. Honorable Vice Chair, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Cheryl Yazzie votes green. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Mooney has green, 0. Madam Chair Charles is not voting.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, we appreciate the report that you provided to us here, Ms. Platero, and we look forward to working with you. HSGU, remind me again what that is, Health Services, Government,
Human Services and Government Unit.
Human Services and Government Unit. Okay, great. Well,
Okay.
thank you. So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to item number 5B, which is a report from myself on the advocacy meeting that was held in Washington, DC on the public safety booklet and priorities for the Law and Order Committee. I'm going to go ahead and ask Vice Chair to take over at this time, since I'll be providing the report.
I have a request. Could we have one of the other two gentlemen do it in case I need to hit the head?
Oh, that's, yeah,
Because they're still trying to vote on their agenda. So, and I'm first on the list, but they do have two reports. I don't know how fast that would go. So one of the two could chair for now.
Delegate Nota, Delegate Arvizo, can either one of you chair today's meeting,
You want to go ahead?
just for this report?
You're on the agenda too, huh?
Yes, I am, but I think I'm later on the agenda, so.
And this is actually the last report.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any legislation, so we're really almost done.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Delegate Arvizo, the gavel is yours. Do you want me to actually give you the gavel?
Break it.
Uncle Shi, I'm gonna take over the Law and Order Committee meeting today, and the reason being is, we have chair that's gonna do a report on the, Washington trip for the advocacy meeting. I'll share it is not net on this. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Can you ask for a motion in a second?
Oh, I need a motion.
I'll make that motion to,
Motion made by Delegate Nota. Second by Madam Vice Chair Yazzie. Now the floor is yours. Let's
All
hear
right.
all about that trip.
All right. Well, thank you guys for allowing us, allowing me to present this information to the committee. As you are aware, I did myself and Delegate Nathan Nota traveled to Washington DC on September 11th, all the way through September 15th. During that time, we did have several meetings with several representatives and senators to discuss the public safety and justice on Navajo Nation, and as well as the issues that we are currently facing. The advocacy trip was planned at the same time with Health Education Human Services because there were a few issues that we had to combine forces on with HES. As you know, that limited our time in presenting to the various senators and representatives that we met with in terms of sharing information with them. So what we did is, as you guys know, we have been working on a booklet, and the booklet is right in front of you. And I will say we ran into a little bit of a snag with the booklet. On September 8th, we learned, actually September 7th, we learned, and I say we as in Delegate Nathan Nota, his LDA, my LDA, and myself, that the booklet was actually prepared by the 24th Navajo Nation Council staff, the speaker's staff. And what happened was they saved that program. It's called InDesign. They saved the information on their laptop. And when they turned in their laptop, after leaving speaker's office, the laptop was wiped out completely. So we didn't find out until September 7th that the speaker's office could not locate the InDesign program. Be mindful that I have been asking speaker to give me access to InDesign. I sent out the first email in February. So technically it should have been caught then in February. But several months had gone by. I sent several emails out asking for the InDesign license. So the speaker's office has purchased InDesign license so that I could start moving forward with updating the booklet. But it wasn't until September 7th that we found out that the InDesign program had been wiped out completely. So in an effort to try to move things forward and to ensure that our representatives and our senators had information regarding the Navajo Nation, what Mahayo Maneth had to do was he got creative, and the only thing we could do was submit a PDF to Mahayo, and he replaced pages as we updated them, and that was all he could do. So there are certain parts of the booklet, it does look a little bit like the font is not as dark as it should be. That was because those are the PDF that was transferred into the book. And then we added in some pages and we removed some pages. It was really stressful because Mahayo, was trying to figure out like how to change that PDF document into something that he could work with the booklet. But we got it ready, we got it completed, and then we got it printed. So this booklet actually was presented to each of the senators and representatives that we met with. If you turn to page, and I have mine in my bag. If you turn to page, it's a tab that says Summary of Advocacy and Objectives. that was basically our reason for meeting with Congress, was to increase the manpower for our officers. And the suggestion that we made was obviously we needed more funding, but to also request for the funding formula, which we have been trying to do at the Tribal Interior Budget Council, which lets us know how much money the Navajo Nation receives in comparison to other tribes and what criterias are used to make that determination, as well as lowering the age of police recruitment from 21 to 18 years of age. We also requested that we be at the table to renegotiate our 638 contracts. And we currently have the 638 contracts for law enforcement, for criminal investigations, for detention, both adult and juvenile. We have 638 contracts for courts. And we also have the EMS 638 contract, which we actually learn later on. I want to make it known that the divisions and departments were also contacted several months ago to share information and to update their the statistics that they had already shared with us during the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Some of them replied, some of them didn't. Some of them replied at the last minute, which made it very difficult for us to get the information into the booklet. But nevertheless, using the information from the 24th through the 25th, we were able to provide, the necessary information for the booklet. We also requested that Congress increase funding and earmark funding for dilapidated buildings on the Navajo Nation for basically our infrastructure needs. And to remind them that they do have that obligation. There's currently 2 facilities on the BIA replacement facility listing, and that is Shiprock and Window Rock. Those are the only 2 facilities at this time that have been identified to be replaced by BIA. We are working to try to get Delcon on that list. There has to be an assessment done before this moves forward, but they stopped all assessments in 2019. And the reason they stopped the assessments was because they weren't getting enough funding from Congress. During that time, Navajo advocated heavily for the 105L lease, which is now an option for Navajo to go through. So right now, there's only 2 facilities that are listed on the BIA replacement facility listing, but we were asking that additional funds be given so that we can work to address the substations as well as the other police stations that need to be built throughout the Navajo Nation. So we did share that information with our representatives and there at Congress. We also requested operations and maintenance costs. We reminded them that currently O&M, if there's not a 105L lease agreement in place, that BIA only covers up to 40% of the operations and maintenance. And so we asked Congress, to make sure that operations and maintenance gets fully funded, because it's not only operations and maintenance for the facilities, it's also operations and maintenance for the roads. So thankfully, Delegate Nota, sitting on the Natural Resources Subcommittee under Tribal Interior Budget Council, he was able to talk a little bit about how that's important, that funding for our roads here on Navajo Nation. We talked about the public safety and justice housing and how that is one of the obstacles that we're facing right now. We had to be very, very careful because committee members, as you may know or you may not know, there was a investigation done on NHA funds by Senator John McCain back in, I believe it was in 2015 or 16. And so every time Navajo talks about housing, that gets thrown back at us. Is the fact that we are still sitting on millions of dollars with no construction being taking place. We did learn, however, during our advocacy trip that NAHASDA funds actually could be used for public safety and justice housing. We requested actually not individual housing, but we did request for like an apartment complex or duplex is kind of what you see in Crown Point, which would house a lot more people And instead of doing the individual housing where it's costing us a lot more money, we asked, you know, if that would be possible, and they said yes. In fact, I believe it's this week. I'm really sad, and maybe Rico can give us that information. But NHA is having their conference, or maybe it's not conference, but they're having like a work session this week in Phoenix. What we were told was that we can start working with NHA to see if that's something that we can start moving towards to build these housing, to provide public safety and justice in the communities where they're needed. It's kind of like a catch-22 though, because we have to have the manpower in place, and we have to have the facilities there in order to justify the housing. But we can't build the housing, you know, we can't offer that as an incentive right now until we have the manpower and the facilities in place. So that was one of the reasons why we were asking for funding to help us with our facility replacements. We also requested, we did meet with the representatives who oversee Indian Health Services. Because Hess was there, we did get to talk to them about the possible medical examiner's position and creating a brand new 638 contract for this position so that we could hire our own medical examiner for the Navajo Nation. We also made it known at that time that according to the tribes that are at Tribal Interior Budget Council, everybody's kind of waiting on Navajo to see if we're going to be successful with this request, because other tribes are also interested in filling a position and creating a 638 contract with IHS. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet with Rosalind So. We weren't actually able to meet directly with IHS. They canceled their meeting on us. There was no reason given, aside from we were told the late afternoon that IHS was not going to be meeting with us. But we did speak to people like Representative Stansberry, who sits on the Government Accountability Subcommittee, and she's well aware that Navajo is in need of the medical examiner's position. But she also said that Pueblo had brought it up to her and brought it to her attention as well. So that was kind of great that we are getting, I guess we are getting recognized for requesting for this position. We also, with Health Education Human Services, also talked about the need for hiring for a new a school resource officer. And we made the distinction between the school resource security and school resource officers. We made it known that school resource security right now is being funded through ISEP dollars. And that ISEP dollars technically shouldn't be funding this position. Moreover, this security position is not really providing any type of security for our children, because our security officers are not allowed to carry guns, nor are they allowed to carry tasers. In some cases, they're only allowed to carry mace, and they cannot detain or arrest an individual. So if anything, as much as we love securities being in our schools, they don't have that power. I guess that the type of power that a police officer would hold. So we did start requesting that within the Bureau of Indian Education, that they create a line item, a budget line item that would allow the schools, the BIE schools, especially those that are located in the rural communities, to hire a school resource officer. And this officer would go through the same, like the police academy, they would be post, and then they would be positioned in these schools offering safety to our schools. So we did meet with the Bureau of Indian Education on this to talk about this possibility. We also met with OMB, who is in charge of creating this line item. We also encouraged Congress, primarily from Representative John. Was it John from Utah?
Yes.
So he said he's willing to work across the aisle to try to get the 2 substations there in Utah funded, which is the Aneth and then the Aneth one and the Red Mesa substation. So he also, is willing to, sign on a letter asking the representatives and the senators and the 3 states to help assist with, getting these substations going. The way that we presented the substations, and if you turn to page 57 in the booklet, we have a list of the substations. The way that we presented these substations is we presented it as a first responders substation, because it houses, as you all know, law enforcement, criminal investigations, fire department, EMS, and it also provides housing, which would take care of the housing issue for a short time, but would also allow our firefighters and our law enforcement, to be in those areas, especially the rural areas, 24/7. So they were really, they seem to be really interested in these substations. So we're hoping that we can move forward in providing more information to them. In addition to that, we also provided statistics. We use these statistics as arguments for increasing our funds. Both myself, Delegate Nathan Nota, and Deputy Chief Redhorse were in attendance there in DC. So the 3 of us, I think between the 3 of us, we were able to provide information on what was happening here on Navajo Nation in terms of public safety and justice. The information, the data and the statistics that's specifically tabbed, this was updated. So we did get our information updated through law enforcement as well as the courts. We got our information updated with SORNA. Criminal investigations didn't provide us any updates or any statistics. As you can see on page 22 and 23, it's just kind of summary of what their duties and responsibilities are, as well as their challenges. So we were only able to include that. The prosecutor's office did provide us information, but it was kind of last minute, but we were able to get that information in there. On page 25, all the way to page 28, we did kind of a breakdown of the top 5 charges for the different communities. For instance, we have Alamo, that is included in there, Tuajale, Aneth, Shiprock, Chinle, Zifagene, as well as Crown Point, Pablo Pintado, Delcon, Canta, Rama, Tuba City, and Window Rock. So this information was provided to us by the prosecutor's office in terms of the top 5 cases that are being charged within those communities. We also included information on for districts as well and what they're seeing. And we talked very, in depth about the federal declination. We had the opportunity to meet with the Department of Justice, the United States Department of Justice, to talk about the declination of cases and what we're seeing. But for them to actually see what was declined from January 2019 to July 15th, 2022, was a shock to them. Because they said it's one thing to hear a report, it's a whole other thing to actually see the numbers and the reasons for declination, as well as the types of cases that were being declined. So we did have a 2-hour meeting with the Department of Justice to talk about, what we can do to try to bring down those numbers and how we can offer proper training to our law enforcement so that these cases don't get declined, because some of them, as you'll see within the information, some of them is, because they didn't have enough evidence, or insufficient evidence was number one. There was also the one that really was concerning to us is AUSA's, the way that they evaluate a case and the way that they come to the conclusion that there is that they're insufficiently confident in a likelihood of conviction. We felt that that was kind of, maybe unfair, in that they were making the determination that if they presented this case, that they would lose a case. So we questioned whether the prosecution of cases are about winning cases for an individual so that they can have that mark on their record, or losing a case and how that also plays out as well on that individual's record. Within the Department of Justice, we are aware that Indian country is kind of the stepping stone for a lot of attorneys to move up into the ranks for the Department of Justice. So during that time, we learned that most attorneys are within the Indian Crimes Unit for about 2 years. They use it as a stepping stone, and then once they get their whistle wet, then they move forward onto bigger, better things. So that's why we were questioning the insufficiently confidence in the likelihood of convictions. So I'm out of time, but that's kind of a nutshell in terms of what we did go to DC about. If I could just get 5 more minutes, committee members.
That's fine.
Okay, I do want to also point out that the week after, on September 18th through the 21st, both myself and Delegate Nota, again, we were in DC. This time we were advocating with the Coalition of Large Tribes. We did have, I believe there were nine tribes that were represented during that time, plus Navajo Nation, which was 10. We got to visit with a little bit more representatives and senators because of us being a part of the Coalition of Large Tribes. So we were able to take this advocacy using this book and the statistics that are being provided within the book. We took it to court, and I think overall we got so many positive comments about the booklet and how Navajo is collecting this data for them to see. During that time, it was great to bring up those advocacy points that we were making the previous week, bring them out at COLT, and to have tribes stand behind us to say, we're in that same boat with Navajo, or we agree with Navajo. And we know that this is an issue, not only on Navajo, but it's also an issue in our tribe as well. So it was kind of that, I guess, that camaraderie maybe between tribes, where we were able to support each other to talk about, what's happening, and these tribes to come forward to say, just positive feedback. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Delegate Nota, because he was with me during that time, in case I forgot to mention something. Delegate Nota?
Yeah, we had the opportunity to meet with all the representatives, senators, and congressmen from all 3 of our states, including Colorado. We did get a chance to meet with other members of the Indian Affairs Committee. I think that this booklet was really, really helpful with each of the representatives that we met. They were very thankful, and their staff was very thankful to get this publication and something actually on paper. We met with the COLT representatives. They didn't have anything like this, so it was kind of nice to have this information, that they really appreciated the data. That was really important to them, and I think it's going to help. The one thing that we need to do, and I think we need to get back together on this, is we need to do the follow-ups. That's really critical. We have the names and the contact information of all of the people that we met, and each one of them we kind of talked about different aspects of what was needed here on the reservation. And I think she took good notes. I took some good notes, and I don't know if Ainsley talked to you, but he took some notes as well. But we do need to do that follow-up.
And then I will end with the advocacy turned out on a really good note. We were contacted by the White House. I took part in a White House tribal consultation. It was last week on, I believe it was Friday. Is that correct? Rico, was it Thursday or Friday? Friday. And so the White House actually reached out to say that Biden, through his discretionary funds, would be funding certain projects. So I did submit to their office initially all of the funding for public safety But because there's only the two facilities for, public safety on the replacement listing, those are the two facilities that they asked for specifically, Window Rock and Shiprock. I also reached out to both criminal investigations and law enforcement, asking them what their needs were, what their unmet needs are. I got information back from law enforcement and we were able to include that information. We did not get information back from criminal investigations on what their unmet needs are. And I'm hoping that maybe they'll reach out to say, what is criminal investigations unmet needs? But we did submit that. I submitted that directly to Justin Ahostin. And I did take part in that meeting with the tribal consultation with the White House on President Biden's discretionary funds. So hopefully we see something coming out of that. But there is a commitment for some funding to go to Indian country. I'm hoping that we get something from Navajo Nation. We've been successful in the past with getting, a couple of, I think I want to say we got 8 million. So I'm hoping that we get something again from his discretionary budget this time. So that's something that did come out of the advocacy trip. We also got an invitation from the Department of Justice to meet with the Department of Justice the last week of October to talk about public safety and justice. And it's another tribal consultation that they're requesting. And they're only sending out invitations to certain individuals. So I got my invitation this last week, but it's all dependent on whether President Nygren will be taking part in that in-person meeting or not, because they're limiting how many people can be part of that meeting. So that's what came out of the advocacy trip. We do stand for questions at this time.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just want to say to both of you, thank you for being there and speaking for all the troubles that we have on Navajo, and I too am thankful for this book because it's very informational. And thank you both of you for being there for the people and also on behalf of Law and Order. Are there any questions for Madam Chair on the advocacy trip?
Yeah, I do.
Madam Vice?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for attending and being in Washington. We do appreciate that. I know you brought up that there's gonna be it sounds like that threefold issue that, we have to justify the facility, the housing and manpower in order to really make some moves on anything, and I want to know if we are bringing in experts to really help us identify where the end is. How do we really solve and start working with that? Or is that something that just the groups in public safety and justice, are they doing that on their own? Is there like a work session that needs to take place? How does that happen? Because to me, just by hearing this, that they are continuing, the way the policies or the way money comes down, there's these things in the way, and it just is that circle. We're never going to go anywhere because, the facilities are not there, or, they need to be replaced. We have to have the manpower to put people in those facilities, but then they also need a place to stay so that they can do their job. And we don't have those three things. So I kind of want to know how we move forward to really identify a way in on what gets started first and how that would look.
Madam Vice, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So that really is the reason why we go to DC to advocate, is to let them know that this is the problem that we're facing. And that's where we need help. We need help. And we did provide some guidance on how they can help us. For instance, with manpower, within the booklet on page 13, we do have that BIA OJS needs to lower the age of police recruitment from 21 to 18, because that's one way that we've identified to help with law enforcement. We've also identified, the fact that if we can renegotiate these contracts, these 638 contracts, we could, increase the salary of law enforcement so that we become more competitive with what's happening off Navajo Nation. So, so the advocacy trip is not just to like pinpoint what the issues are, it's to give them some guidance to say, this is how we can work together to address this. So in terms of your question about whether the consultants, so I know that during the 24th Navajo Nation Council, law enforcement would hire a consultant to help them put together kind of I want to say maybe like a plan of how to address these issues. And they did share that booklet with me. And I do have a copy of that. Well, no. I gave the original back to them because they didn't have the printout. So they're supposed to get me a copy on a USB stick so that we can implement some of those into the booklet to say that a consultant was hired and these are the recommendations. So we are working towards getting that. Committee members, just be mindful that this book has been in the works now for probably 2.5 years. And we're really at the mercy of the divisions and departments to share information with us, as well as to provide information on their recommendations to address these issues. And that's really the purpose of us having the orientation, which we did have. Some of those were implemented into the way that we can address this. We also identified during this budget session, we identified those issues that Navajo has control over that we could help assist with. And we did talk about, how we're just not giving this to the federal government to say, here, these are issues. Here's our ways of addressing it. Now, it's on you guys. We shared information about how much money we are providing from our general funds to help assist with unmet needs, as well as what we're trying to do to address things like public safety housing. The fact that we introduced that to the investment committee during the 24th Navajo Nation Council, but we ran out of time. So now we're working to reintroduce that information. And our message to Congress was help us. We're not just going to give it to you and say, here, it's your responsibility. We're taking some of that responsibility and we're saying, help us. We also, in terms of showing them the funding, we did point out on page 68, the medical examiner's position and how Navajo right now is advertising that position at 118,000, but how, we need probably double that in order to be competitive with off Navajo Nation. So we're saying, let's combine our funding sources, to look at, this position. And then the last thing that we also included within the booklet was the break of how much are used for like the medical examinations that have to be done, like autopsies, toxicology reports, all of that information was shared with them. So to answer your question, Vice Chair, the consultants for some of the divisions and departments have been hired and they are working right now. They're sharing that information. And as we get that information, we're including it in the booklet. So I know that Delegate Crotty, during the 24th, she did take a look at the booklet and she offered that we put in information on missing murdered Indigenous women or relatives so that we can provide that information as well to say this is currently how many missing Navajo or murdered Navajos that the cases haven't been solved. And then during that process, when we did meet with Senator Lujan, he recommended that that we work with his office to see if we can hire somebody for at least a year and focus on cold cases, because other tribes are doing something similar to that. So they did provide some recommendations on the way that we can move forward. So right now, that's one of the things that Delegate Notel was talking about with that follow-up. We need to follow up to see what can we do, what information can we provide to help move these forward. Representative John was very helpful. We also, when we met with Senator Elizabeth Warren, she also provided some I guess valuable like the way that we can try to maneuver through the process to get these things addressed. And then we also, Senator Lujan was the one who talked about the discretionary. One of the ideas that he brought forth, is we introduced, or we talked a little bit about the coroner pilot program, which should have been on page 14, but we forgot to add it. But he said that, he would be willing to fund this pilot program. However, that pilot program would only extend into New Mexico. So we would have to work with senators, in Arizona and in Utah to see if we can, start this coroner pilot program. But they did say that they would be willing to write a letter, asking for assistance with discretionary funding, to help with this program. And so, Deputy Chief Red Horse was there, and he did say that he would start working to put together a summary of that so that we can submit that for next year's discretionary funding. So I hope that answers your question.
Madam Vice.
Okay. Thank you for that information. So it sounds like, is the booklet not ready to, because I'm wondering, is it going to be approved by our committee and then go into NABI and council? Is that ready, or the plan that you mentioned, the consultants that worked on a plan, and does that still need to be included in this as well? And how much more time do you think it would take for this to move forward to be approved?
Madam.
Delegate Arvizo, thank you. Thank you for that question, Vice Chair. So right now, it is a working document. It's going to be constantly updated. And as I stated, you know, this is kind of the foundation of what has been put together. And we know that there's going to be a request for more information to be added into the booklet. What I do remind my colleagues is, like, pictures are worth like 1,000 words, right? We know that. So we're trying to avoid a lot of like words and more of the data and the statistics, as well as, what it is that we're trying to do. So to answer your question, it is a live document. So it's going to constantly be changed. This right now, the reason why I said it as a report is I want you guys to review it, and I want to get feedback, so that we can start implementing that request into the booklet. If there's something that we may have forgotten that needs to be included, I'd like that included. But at the same time, keep in mind that this booklet right now is really for our federal partners. So what we're trying to avoid in this is stuff that Navajo Nation could, address. So obviously, we don't want to see and hear that, that there's no minimum wage on the Navajo Nation and people make $9 an hour. That's not Congress that's setting that law. It is the Navajo Nation. So that type of information shouldn't be included in the booklet, because this is for our federal partners. This is for them to be able to say that there's justification for increasing funds, whether it's through 638 or whether it's for the facility replacement or other federal funds that we could be asking for. So as we start moving forward, we're going to identify some information that has to be added in there. And like I said, the example is Delegate Crotty wants information on MMIDR in the booklet, which we should be adding because that is through our VAWA, it is information that they should have as well. Delegate Arvizo.
Madam Chair, thank you for that report. Is there any other questions? And does that conclude your report, Madam Chair?
Yes, well, just one thing, Delegate Arvizo. So this right now is a report. What we can do, and Speaker has requested, Chief Rico has left, but Speaker and I, have been talking, the committees need to submit their priorities. So I'm hoping in January, we'll be able to submit our priorities of the 25th, because now like that, I guess your learning stage of being a delegate is, we're past that now. And then we've also, have met for a year, almost a year in terms of, Law and Order Committee. We've heard from the different divisions and departments. We've also experienced our first budget, and we were able to help assist those divisions and departments. So now what I want to do is, we're going to keep working on this. Mahio now has to to put all of this into a new, into the InDesign program. So he has to recreate this whole booklet. And then once that's done, we can start adding in more information and updating it. So hopefully by January, my plan is to have this as a priority, because everything is already in there. And to also introduce it to the council and really let it be a working document that each committee from this day forward can add or take away, or, I guess they can keep working on it. Each committee right now, so during the 24th, when we started this booklet, that was the goal, is we don't want to lose momentum with the work that was done. So let's, put together this booklet, and as we identify things that need to be worked on at the federal level, we can include that. And this is the booklet that we could take every time we go on our advocacy trip. And it was, as Delegate Nathan Notel stated, when we went with Colt, we were the only ones prepared.
Yeah.
Navajo was
Yeah.
the only one that was prepared. And it was just, it was great that we could say, okay, this is why we're here. This is what's happening. Here's a booklet that will explain a lot more information, and that provides the data and statistics that you need to be able to justify why we need an increase in our funding, or why we need, the manpower age or the law enforcement recruitment age lowered, and how you can help us to work with these various federal, divisions and departments, and call upon them to answer questions about what's really going on. So it was, again, the goal right now is just to keep building on it. So I don't want to see like a big booklet, because they do get a lot of information. This is just the summary of what's happening on the nation. And so hopefully we can keep adding to it. And I don't think it's ever going to be like a finished product. I think it's always going to be, it's always going to be changing. So, but at least we have something that now we can present to council to say, this is what we're working on as a committee. And, the information is in this booklet, because also be mindful that no other committee has a booklet prepared right now on what they're working on. Thank you.
Anybody?
Cool, thanks you for explaining how we would be using this book. I'm wondering though, like you said, we're gonna be adding more to it. Is there still need to be the big booklet though? Just so we can kind of cite where numbers came from, the years that, this information was put in. And even though, at the federal level, they probably don't want to know what our minimum wage is, but that's probably, under the manpower, that's probably a reason why we don't get a lot of people, is because the what we pay them is too low. I mean, I've heard that a lot. So I still think there would be a need to still have a bigger booklet to kind of explain a little bit more of for our end, like, the new delegates, the next, in years to come, new people that come aboard this job, they have something to read, because I really don't feel like, even for me, I had anything to go on. It was just kind of talking to a lot of people, and kind of researching on my own. And then, this was helpful. And I do agree, something smaller when you take to Washington, but I still feel like there would still need to be that booklet to have, so it can be referred back to. The other thing I would like to see is on that page 13 and 14, if there's a way just to have one whole section, like one page just for like manpower that kind of explains that piece, and maybe there's a nice, sheet, where we have pictures of maybe some of, the stuff we're doing, so that way we can pull just that out and advocacy work, you know, we just want to talk about manpower. So it's like educational, like a leaflet kind of thing. You just pull that out and you can kind of talk about it with people, either Washington at the state, or even you know, with our constituents, just to know when they ask, you know, what are some of our challenges, we can pull this out and say, well, I'll just talk about manpower, and you have just one sheet to educate them on. And then there might be one for each of these for help, to help them understand why, you know, the work is the way it is and why we have problems and how we're trying to solve them. So that would be my recommendation, is to have those in place. Thank you.
Delegate Noto.
Would you think that, in what you're talking about, including, planning, like long-term, like what we would like to see by the end of this, 24th council, what we would like to see done and completed, and then even taking a longer-term plan beyond that, maybe 10, 15, 20 years. This would be included in the book that you're talking about, not necessarily in this. I think that would be helpful for us to keep track and keep on focus. And also, anybody else that might be coming in new and later dates, it will be helpful for them. So I don't know, you know, exactly the process for putting that together, what maybe funding we might need possibly. That's just a thought.
Delegate Noto, thank you. Vice Chair, thank you. Madam Chair?
Thank you. So it is a lot of work to put this together. My LDA actually was the one who put this all together. Or I should say, we put it together, but what we were doing was, you are right that when you come in as a new delegate, you know, there's not really anything that tells you what you're supposed to do. We do hear what you can't do, but you know, we oftentimes, you know, like it does take some time to really kind of get an idea of, okay, oh, this is my role as a delegate. And so with, you know, with this booklet, yeah, it should be, I guess it should be bigger. So I did request during the 24th, when Speaker Damon was speaker, I did request that we hire a consultant to help put this booklet together in a professional way. But that request was never honored. I also made the request under the current 25th Navajo Nation Council to ask if we can hire a consultant to help assist us. During the 24th, under Speaker Damon, we did have a staff that was specifically a staff member in the speaker's office who specifically assisted along. So it was Lone Tree, who was awesome. She was really, really good. But after Hope left, it was Nikita. And so Nikita picked up, you know, kind of where Hope left off, and you know, started to help build the booklet. So it was Nikita and my LDA that helped put the first draft of the booklet together, as well as Kyron from communications. So each year, or probably every 6 months, we were updating that information. And then, you know, of course, you know, we came in with the 25th. The 24th Navajo Nation Council Law and Order Committee had this booklet. And, you know, they, again, you know, provided some recommendations that we could add into this. But this booklet right now, we can build on it, but this booklet is really just for our federal partners, because when we would go on advocacy trips, they would ask us, what are your numbers? Can you share your numbers with us? You're telling us that this is what's happening, but help us see what it is that you're saying. So that was really the purpose of the providing the data and the statistics, is so that they could see for themselves what we're facing here on the nation. And it does require some explanation. So the last advocacy trip that we took, both myself and Delegate Vince James, the last time we went out there, we went with I guess maybe a previous version of this booklet, but we also went with a fob or a USB stick. And we taped it onto the book that had all the stuff that we used in putting the booklet together. So we did have that and we provided it to them. But in all honesty, when I meet with the staffers to ask, okay, what is your senator asked for this, or your representative asked for this, like, what would be the easiest way to get it to them? And what they would tell us, actually, all the staffers is pictures are good, graphs are good, but if it's like a big book, we're lucky if we can read the whole thing. So, just a summary of what it is and what they told us, and they said this during this advocacy trip, is if we have any other questions, we'll reach out to you guys.
Yeah.
And so that was what they said. So during that process, I realized, because we have a picture of the 25th Navajo Nation Council and the booklet. But what I realized is we do have to put our card information, our contact information in the booklet so that they have it. So what we were doing, Delegate Nathan Nota and I, we were including our business card and we were putting it here along with Deputy Chief Red Horse. So we had it in here, and thankfully this is like
Yeah.
plastic and it kept it in place. So all we were doing was just giving it to them with everything in there, and we just told them the same thing. If you guys have any questions or you guys need further explanation, just reach out to us, because that's what creates that dialogue between us. And that was the reason why, like I stated on Friday, I was emailed an invitation to present before Department of Justice on the information during our advocacy trip, and I'm trying to figure that out now on the 25th and the 26th of October. So I'm hoping that everything goes smoothly, but I'm just glad that they heard us when we went out there. So yes, we can make it bigger. Yes, that is the goal. And, if I can get, if we could maybe do a joint, and I know during the 24th, we did a joint letter to the speaker asking for a consultant. But what we ran into was, number one, if we budget for a law and order committee or for a consultant, we have to do that for every committee. And the other committees, they weren't ready for anything like this. So that was one of the reasons why we got denied during the 24th Navajo Nation Council. This time with Speaker Curley, she said the same thing. So if we hire a consultant for LOC, we have to hire a consultant for all of the other committees. And so that's why we're working with Mahio. That's why, we have thankfully Delegate Nathan Nota's LDA. He stepped up and he also assisted my LDA as they put this booklet together. And so hopefully now we'll be able to move forward and keep building the booklet. And then the next advocacy trip, be better.
Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you for that report. I'm going to excuse Madam Vice. She's up at, her legislation is being brought up at, Budget and Finance, so she will excuse her.
I just have one more question
Okay.
before I leave. Thank you for that. Would it be possible if I get a copy of that USB stick you guys did before with all of the data? Because it helped me just to understand the bigger picture. And then I feel like for me personally, I have a better understanding of how to advocate for each of those priorities.
So that I'm sorry, Delegate Arvindo. So that USB stick was created during the 24th. So now what we're trying to do is, as we get information from the divisions and departments, because it's a new administration, right? So we can't use that information from the 24th because that was during the 24th. So now we're trying to rebuild. So I've got the consultant booklet. We can definitely, once we get that in a USB format, we can definitely share that. We also met with Parsons, so we have that information that we're scanning and putting on that USB booklet. But basically, you guys all have the information already. As we come to our LOC meetings, we have orientation, we have these meetings, they give us this information, And that's what that USB information, that's how we saved it on there. Lorraine has copies of all the documents that we receive. And all we do is we just put that onto a USB booklet or a stick. And then what we did during the 24th with the last advocacy was we summarized it based on what we were given.
Is that the end of report?
Yes. If you guys don't have any questions.
At the end of this, so at the end of the questions and stuff, can we go through a quick vote to
Mhm.
accept her report before Vice Chair leaves?
Okay, Honorable Vice Chair Cheryl Yazzie, how do you vote?
Agree. Thank you, guys.
Honorable Vice Chair
Thank
Cheryl
you.
Yazzie votes green. Honorable Nathan Notar, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Nathan Notar votes green. Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charlton, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charlton votes green. Honorable Pro Temp Chair Stephen Arvizo, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Pro Temp Chair Stephen Arvizo not voting.
Yeah, thank you for that, especially to voting. At this time, I'm gonna hand the gavel back over to Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Eugenia Charles.
Thank you, Delia Arvizo. I apologize that we went through this booklet so quickly, but the good news is you guys have a copy now in front of you. And now you guys can, if there's information that you think that should be added, my goal is to get this presented in January. And then to also put it out on the website for council once it gets approved by council. Because this is very, to me, this is valuable information. And it's information all in one. So we're gonna keep working with the divisions and departments as we move forward. And then hopefully, add information as we move along. And hopefully, my goal is every time book needs to be updated, we can update it.
Great.
So thank you, committee members. We're going to go ahead and proceed forward to item number 6, old business. There is none. Item number 7, new business. There is none. We are now at the close of the meeting. Before I ask for a motion and a second to adjourn, I'd like to ask, are there any announcements at this time?
Madam Chair, Mr. Sandoval has an amendment.
This is only for the committee members.
I think he wants to invite, LOC
Okay,
from prosecutor's office.
Yes, to the grand opening on November 1st. All LLC are invited to the grand opening, June 5.
November 1st.
Yes.
What's the, what is the, what is the event? Are you with the prosecutor's
Yes, I
office
am.
now, Mr. Sandoval?
Yes,
Okay.
Prosecutor, Madam Chair, and also LLC committee. Again, my name is Ryan Sandoval. So with the prosecutor's office, we're having a grand opening November 1st at the right beside the Navajo Nation Hogan Soda, and they give right in there from the adult vehicle.
What is the grand opening, like of the prosecutor's
Right, the
office?
prosecutor's
Oh,
office,
okay.
the grand opening, the new office is going to be opening to the public. So of course, you're all invited to be there with us to celebrate that grand opening. More information will be coming precedingly, as well as the agenda and what's going to be processed down the line. So there's going to be more preceded to you guys for the education time. So there's that simple announcement, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sandoval. I thought you were still with OPVP's office. Okay,
Thank you, Chantal.
that sounds great. November 1st. Do we know what time?
Time is going to be, like I said, initiated down the line when we appropriately disperse the.
Okay, so you just don't save the date for us right now.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Are there any other announcements at this time, committee members? Okay, just a reminder, committee members, next week, we do start fall session. It is next week, the 16th through the 20th. We also, since we are all in New Mexico, just a reminder, committee members, that on Friday, we have that New Mexico Council Delegates Caucus in Albuquerque regarding the funds that we may potentially lose. Hopefully we don't. So keep that in mind. So the 13th will be in Albuquerque, the 16th through the 20th. We do have fall session. There's going to be a disability conference that will be happening on the 18th at Doty. We're still awaiting information. So hopefully this week they'll have solidified the time for that. And then on the 23rd, we have our Law and Order Committee meeting in Torreon. Keep that in mind. And that week, committee members, that's the week that we were invited to go out to Billings, Montana, for the missing, murdered Indigenous women's, training. I sent out that email again this morning. So my question is, committee members, who was going to be attending? Delegate Arvizo, are you planning to attend?
No.
Okay, Delegate Notar, are you
I
planning?
don't think so, no.
Okay, I will talk with the Vice Chair and Delegate Daniels. If Vice Chair wants to go, I won't go. They asked Navajo to speak. So, if we can get somebody from LOC to go, that would be great to speak on, they actually just talk about being good with, the advocacy trip. They want us to talk about this booklet. Because they were so impressed with the booklet. That's the reason why they've invited us to come out to talk. So I think since the booklet is pretty much done,
Right.
if a committee member wants to attend, all they have to do is just read the booklet, put together a summary, talking points, and then it's done. But if there's nobody from LOC who will be attending, I can attend. Just know that, I was just now looking at flights. So I would attend the LOC meeting in Torreon. And then I probably would have to leave at like 12. So I'd only be there for a couple of hours to drive to Albuquerque, to fly out to Albuquerque, to Billings, Montana. That I would be in Billings, Montana that Tuesday night, I would be flying out because the Department of Justice tribal consultation meeting is on the 25th and the 26th. I doubt we're gonna have NABI on the 26th because we usually don't have NABI the week after council. So I'm kind of banking on us not having NABI because it's the week after council. So that week will be a busy week for me, but as chair, it is my responsibility. So if there's nobody who's going to be going to Billings to attend, I will attend. I'll just be flying from Albuquerque to Billings to DC, then back to Albuquerque again. There's also, again, in November, we have the 13th, the 20th and the 27th, which is Law and Order Committee meeting. Committee members, usually in the past, what we've done is we've had our LOC meeting, like, schedule it Monday so that we could have that Monday off the week of Thanksgiving. But all three of us, we will be in Washington, DC. Vice Chair,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Delegate Notan, myself for the Tribal Interior Budget Council.
Yep.
On the 13th, which is the next Monday, I will be at the National Congress of American Indians.
I will too.
Okay, so we have to decide how we're going to handle LOC meetings for November. We could do one LOC meeting on the 1st, on November 1st as an option, which is that Wednesday, and it'll cover us for one meeting in November. We could then schedule a LOC meeting we would have to have it on the 20th, which is the week of Thanksgiving, which would be our second. And then our third one would be on the 27th. Unless Delegate Daniels, Delegate Arvizo, and Vice Chair on the 13th, if the three of you can commit to meeting on the 13th. You guys can have your LOC meeting on the 13th and then none on the 20th. We can have the 20th off and then the 27th. So it would be November 1st, 13th, and 27th. But the three of you would have to make quorum on the 13th because Delegate Nota and I will be at, that next week, we have the National Congress of American Indians convention. But we'll put that on the next agenda, Lorraine. So meet November 1st, the 13th, and then the 27th. Okay,
I can do the 13th for sure.
okay,
You can get with Delegate Daniels and Vice Chair.
yeah. Then the three of you would have quorum and you guys could still have the LLC
It'll be
meeting.
up to them.
Yeah. So, those are the announcements that I have at this time, committee members. Are there any other announcements? Okay, we're open for motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Motion made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo,
I'll second.
second made by Delegate Nathan Nota. So with that, committee members, I don't think there's not any questions or any comments regarding adjournment, so we'll just go straight to vote.
Honorable Stephen Arvizo, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen Arvizo, votes green. Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Nathan Nota, votes green. Honorable Herman and Daniel Shinner, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair Cheryl Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Chasman, and we have 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Madam Chair Chasman not voting.
Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and since we are done with the meeting, we'll go ahead and excuse Vice Chair Yazzie. And then we did get a text message from
Delegate Daniels.
Delegate Daniels, who said he was gonna be late, but this is the first time we've actually got done early.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and excuse him at this time. So we have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 who are not voting, 2 delegates who are excused. With that, committee members, we are adjourned at 11:39 a.m.
Mexico caucus, say that again.
On Friday, we have that New Mexico Council Delegate Caucus meeting at Sauter Miller in Albuquerque. That's on Friday.
The 13th.
Yeah, and just be mindful that,